Did John Mearsheimer just renew his vow to fight against American government, its policies towards Israel, towards the Palestinians, towards the Gazans? It is something we need to watch and find out ourselves. So let's take a listen at this video from him, what he's saying here.
So what are we going to do now to fix the problem? What's the viable solution that Trump has? What is this thinking outside of the box add up to? There's no question he's thinking outside of the box, but is what he is thinking logical? Is it viable? Is it morally correct? I don't think it's any of those things. I, as an American, certainly don't want to be associated with a policy that calls for ethnically cleansing Gaza at the end of a rifle barrel. Furthermore, I don't think you can do it. The Israelis were unable to do it. I don't think we're going to be able to do it. Trump has made it clear we're not going to go in there and do it. So who's going to do it? The Israelis? Well, they've already tried. What do you think they've been doing for the past 15 months? This is like, people say, if the hostages don't come back on Saturday, these are the Israeli hostages who are due to be released this Saturday. If they don't come back, Netanyahu is going to restart the war. And I say to myself, okay, what does that mean? The war was not going very well, which is why the Israelis agreed to the ceasefire. They didn't agree to the ceasefire because Trump put great pressure on them. They agreed to the ceasefire in large part because the IDF, the Israeli military, put great pressure on Netanyahu to effect the ceasefire because the IDF understood it could not defeat Hamas, number one, and number two, the Israeli army was coming apart at the seams. It was suffering great casualties in Gaza, and furthermore, that this is an army that's configured for fighting short wars, not long wars.
Okay, so 2 points I want to make here. Number one is this. John Mearsheimer, people like him at that stature, in that kind of position, where they're being admired, and they are really the expert in this field. They know more about the war than anybody else out there. Saying him that I will not be associating myself as an American with any kind of policy that will promote ethnic cleansing. Coming from a person like him, saying that I, an American, will not be associated with this is something big. Shows how he really is disgusted by Americans' policy towards Palestine. Of course, he cannot say a lot of things because of who he is. He's a professional, he is an expert. But this is really what it means, and this is how he feels. And millions of Americans, they are completely and utterly disgusted by their governments, especially Joe Biden's foreign policy towards Palestine, towards Gaza, where he gave 15 months of non-stop bombs and non-stop money to destroy people who are not even armed for the most part. And number 2 point is this. IDF Israel, as John Mearsheimer pointed out, they have hit a dead end. The moment they agreed to a ceasefire with Gaza, with Hamas in Gaza, they were defeated. Period. The moment they agreed that yes, ceasefire will be implemented on this day, from this time, that's it. It's done deal. They were defeated because no country would negotiate with terrorists unless they know one of the two things. Number one is they're going to lose, and this is the case with Israel, or they will negotiate with terrorists if they see mass casualties and they cannot take it anymore. So let's call it a truce. Let's regroup and then fight back against these extremist terrorists. But as we have seen, Hamas was not the offensive. Hamas was on the defensive. Israel was the one on the offensive, dropping bombs every single day. Israel was the one who could not win this war. It was not Hamas. Therefore, from whichever angle you look at it, it's a complete defeat, utter defeat for the Zionist state of Israel. And that's what John Mearsheimer is saying, that Netanyahu was given 15 months time to deal with Hamas, And now all the talk, all this rhetoric coming from both Trump, U.S., other officials, Netanyahu, his minister, Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, or Ben Gavir Itmir, all of these rhetorics, Hamas cannot rule in Gaza, or Marco Rubio, Hamas must be eliminated. These are all talk. These are all rubbish. They have no meaning and they have no consequence for the people of Gaza and for the Hamas organization, because they are going to live by the laws and the values that they have lived for the past decades, which is we are going to resist, we're going to get rid of the oppressors, the invaders. Now, maybe the name of Hamas will be changed. Maybe they can say we will start a new group, somebody else will replace Hamas, but the resistance will never be replaced itself. The fight will continue on until, as Hamas said recently, they reach Jerusalem. You want us to be displaced? You want to do an ethnic cleansing of the people of Gaza? No problem. This is what Hamas said, coming from them. No problem. We will leave Gaza. Only with one condition, and that is we will go to Jerusalem. If you give us Jerusalem, no problem. Other place, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Al-Ula, nothing will help. Nothing will entice us to go there except Jerusalem. Therefore, resistance is going to continue on.
Not configured to fight a war of attrition over a long period of time in Gaza. So it was in deep trouble. So the Israelis agreed to a ceasefire. There was no way you were going to solve this one, because the Israelis from the beginning have wanted all of Greater Israel. They were never interested in giving the Palestinians a state of their own. This is a myth that we purvey in the West so that we can support Israel fully. So it's not like I think there is a solution out there, a viable solution. The best that the Israelis were able to come up with was where they basically locked the Palestinians in Gaza in a giant open-air prison, and they thought they could manage that problem. And that looked like it worked up until October 7th. And now the question is, what do you do moving forward? And the Israelis would like to cleanse Gaza. That's been their policy goal since October 7th, to cleanse Gaza. They want to get rid of all the Palestinians. And now we're talking about putting an end to that ceasefire. Okay, what's the magic formula that the Israelis have now come up with that's going to allow them to deal with the Hamas problem that they couldn't deal with for the first 16 months of the war? I just don't understand. So, Trump is thinking outside the box, but sometimes thinking outside the box makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, I don't think it makes sense. But
yeah, I mean, whatever Trump is thinking outside the box, as John Mearsheimer is saying, it's not going to work, because you can only change a situation by thinking outside of the box is when you are in control. If I am trying to accomplish something, a goal, and it's not working for me, and I'm trying and trying and trying, it's not yielding me results, excuse me, then I can think outside of the box. But when it is not under my control whatsoever, even if I think outside of the planet, it's not going to work. This is exactly the situation with Donald Trump. He's thinking outside the box, but Gaza is not being controlled by America or by the Zionist monsters, Israel. So thinking and thinking and thinking will do nothing. The only way you can bring solution to this problem is by looking at the actual problem and try to have some gain, some control over the narrative that Hamas has established, which is that Israel is the oppressor. They're violating ceasefire. They're violating international laws. If you hold Israel accountable, I can promise you, then you can think outside of the box and it will work. But until you support Israel blindly, it's not going to work whatsoever. Subscribe to my channel for more videos and updates.